welcome back to Quest for You. This is episode 304. I'm Janine. We're going to talk about the way of the superior man. I want to share a book with you that you may wonder about. Why am I talking about this book? Just based on the title, you can tell it's probably written for men. And then the word superior? Strange, I know. But let me tell you, I devoured this book on a recent flight from the West Coast to the East Coast. The book was praised on a podcast I listened to, so I decided to read it. And I loved it. The author, David Deida, has written several books, all revolving around the topics of personal growth, intimacy, and relationships. He shows us the way of how to be a better partner and friend in our relationships. As you may know, I've dabbled a little bit in this subject. I've recorded a few episodes on relationships, as I feel I can never learn enough about this interesting phenomena of two human beings walking together for a portion of their life. Just the other day, I was talking with my trainer about this. He's not in a serious relationship, but admitted how overwhelming it can sometimes become having to deal with so many different energies around him. I like that he used the word energy, because that is what we feel when another person is close to us for a while. We sense their energy, it affects us, and it moves and stimulates us, often in a good way. Traction, passion, motivation. But sometimes it can pull us out of our happy place when we face difficult emotions like jealousy, disrespect, or dishonesty. David has written a book that I have already earmarked for several male friends in my life as gifts. Not because there's something wrong with them, but because I believe it will give men more clarity and a better sense of direction. I think it's a must-read for everyone who has struggled with the dynamics in relationships, which I'm sure is a lot of people. After reading this book, men will walk away with a lot to think about. They will need to reconsider their entire life, not just their relationships. They will want to go to the root of who they are, because that drives everything, including the relationships with their partners. I did a quick search online and found quite a few reviews of this book by male bloggers and YouTubers. Women will gain some interesting insights as well. We will learn that there just isn't much wrong with us, as we are often led to believe by the comments of the man in our life. We are different from men, and we have different goals when it comes to relationships. Deida refers frequently to this polarity, which he explains as follows. The nature of nature is polarity, from the magnetism that flows between the north and the south poles of the earth to the attraction that flows between your masculine core and the feminine radiance of a woman. Deida explains that many of the disagreements between partners stem from this polarity between men and women. Both have different objectives, which need to be acknowledged and worked with effectively. But until I read Deida's book, I wasn't clear on this. I always thought something was wrong with me. Listen to the following excerpt from this book, which is a classic example of a typical disagreement in many relationships. The thing your woman is complaining about is rarely the thing she is complaining about. It is a mistake to believe the content of what she's saying and then respond to her complaints point by point. When she complains about financial issues, she's usually feeling a lack in your masculine capacity to direct your life with clarity, purpose, integrity, and wisdom. The money itself is secondary. If you were poor, but totally conscious, happy, full of integrity, fearless, humorous, loving, and giving your fullest gift to the world and to your woman, she wouldn't complain about lack of money. When you say you will clean the garage, and then weeks pass and you haven't, her complaint isn't really about the garage. Sure, she'd like a clean garage, but this is a superficial issue. The deeper issue is that you didn't do what you said you would. You gave her your word, and you didn't follow through. She can't trust what you say, and this hurts her deeply. She might seem to be overreacting to you. Why is she so hysterical? It's only a garage. But she can feel your lack of integrity. Not having cleaned the garage yet seems like a small thing to you, but it shows you don't follow through with your word, with your purpose. At its essence, and this is why I like this book so much, it's about purpose. A superior man is not a man that dominates others. It's a man that shows up in the world with purpose and as a best version of himself. A superior man doesn't complain and bicker, nor does he get caught up in arguments over immaterial matters. A superior man looks for the real issues behind the words and actions. He looks where he could be falling short, what he might not be seeing, and then he addresses it. Data doesn't offer relationship advice in this book. He offers a path to become a superior human being. But for that, you have to do the work. He provides the tools, but the work is on us. The strategy in his book consists of 3 elements. It's important that anyone who reads this is ready for these. Otherwise, the wisdom and hence the path to a more fulfilled relationship will pass you by. First, he provides knowledge and insight. Be ready to learn a lot about the difference of men and women, why women do what they do, and what the role of a man is to steer his relationship towards success. Second, he requests openness and vulnerability. Be ready to acknowledge your weaknesses, mistakes, your motives, and your stereotypes about the opposite sex. If you're not ready to admit that your approach may have been skewed, then you will not get the most out of this book. It doesn't matter where it came from. Maybe the wrong role models in your past. Excuses are out the window. Data asks his reader to be ready to change into a different direction. And lastly, he offers clear direction. At its base, his message is this: find your purpose first, because that will resolve any of the other issues by itself. He points to specific actions that will help you find your quest. But remember, the work is on you. The chapters do not necessarily follow this order. Rather, each chapter contains all 3 elements, sometimes more teaching, sometimes more direction. Let's dive into these 3 elements in more detail and with some examples from the book. 1. Knowledge and insight. This was eye-opening for me. We all know that men and women are different, but do we actually allow room for our differences and adjust our behaviors accordingly? I have never read a more clear-cut explanation of the polarity between men and women, and how to not just accept these differences, but to learn how to play with them and incorporate them into our relationships. In this book, David empowers all men to learn about the feminine energies and to use them to their advantage, rather than to give up on them, as so many men do because they don't know how to handle them. He says, like the ocean, the native state of the feminine is to flow with great power and no single direction. The masculine builds canals, dams, and boats to unite with the power of the feminine ocean and go from point A to point B. But the feminine moves in many directions at once. The masculine chooses a single goal and moves in that direction. Like a ship cutting through a vast ocean, the masculine decides on a course and navigates the direction. The feminine energy itself is undirected but immense, like the wind and deep currents of the ocean, ever-changing, beautiful, destructive, and the source of life. Before you blame a woman for erratic behavior, for not being logical or consistent, first, ask yourself what you're missing. Do you understand what's at the root of this behavior? And if you do, how can you use her reaction to make the relationship feel safe and fun again? With the knowledge David offers in his book comes a lot of work, especially for men. The automatic reaction of shutting down or getting angry because your partner reacted in ways you didn't like are now not excusable anymore. It comes down to this. Do you have enough knowledge to understand where they're coming from? Do you have enough maturity to handle them effectively? And do you have enough love inside of you to make that the priority over everything else? He says, the feminine moods and opinions are like weather patterns. They're constantly changing, severe and gentle, and they have no single source. No analysis will work. There is no linear chain of cause and effect that can lead to the kernel of the problem. There is no problem, only a storm, a breeze, a sudden change in weather. And the basis of these storms are the high and low pressure systems of love. When a woman feels love flowing deeply, her mood can instantly evaporate into joy, regardless of the supposed reason for the mood. I love this. 2. Openness and vulnerability. David talks clearly and directly and often straight to the ego each one of us likes to prioritize. Relationships are not about winning. They are not there to teach the partner a lesson or even be miserable for years. They are a challenge we must learn to manage. He states, "The world and your woman will always present you with unforeseen challenges. You're either living fully, giving your gift in the midst of those challenges, even today, or you are waiting for an imaginary future which will never come. Men who have lived significant lives are men who never waited, not for money, security, ease, or women. Feel what you want to give most as a gift to your woman and to the world, and do what you can to give it today. Every moment waited is a moment wasted. In each wasted moment degrades your clarity of purpose." A superior man must be open and face his fears. He must find what Data calls his edge, and this can only be done through openness and vulnerability. He says, "It is honorable for a man to admit his fears, resistance, and edge of practice. It is simply true that each man has his limit, his capacity for growth, and his destiny. But it is dishonorable for him to lie to himself or others about his real place. He shouldn't pretend he is more enlightened than he is, nor should he stop short of his actual edge. The more a man is playing his real edge, the more valuable he is as a good company for other men, the more he can be trusted to be authentic and fully present. Where a man's edge is located is less important than whether he is actually living his edge in truth rather than being lazy or deluded." Data describes the edge as follows. Your edge is where you stop short, or where you compromise your fullest gift and instead cater to your fears. We all have our edge. Many of my episodes are dedicated to helping you push beyond it. If we want to be superior, we have no choice. We need to step over our edge and face the things in life that hold us back. And it all starts with being honest with ourselves. This quote speaks to this extremely well. "Unadorned suffering is the bedmate of masculine growth. Only by staying intimate with your personal suffering can you feel through it to its source. By putting all your attention into work, TV, and reading, your suffering remains unpenetrated and the source remains hidden. Your life becomes structured entirely by your favorite means of sidestepping the suffering you rarely allow yourself to feel. And when you do touch the surface of your suffering, perhaps in the form of boredom, you quickly pick up a magazine or the remote control. As I often like to say, life awaits us outside of our comfort zone. And this is also where superiority lies." And 3, direction. Once you're on the edge, once you decide to go against the grain, to be vulnerable, honest, and truthful with yourself, then you will discover your purpose. That is what I have discovered with myself, and that is what Data tells us in his book. And it's only then, when you have found your purpose, that we will be more fulfilled in all areas of our life, including our relationships. Purpose gives our lives meaning. Without purpose, we seek meaning in relationships and other short-lived things. Purpose comes from within, but it's noticeable in everything we do. A man with a strong purpose will be a better relationship partner. Listen to the following excerpt from the book, which I find extremely powerful. "Your loving intervention is one of your greatest masculine gifts. The point is not to be her therapist, but to be her wake-up call, her heart opener, her reminder of the primacy of love. If it takes you more than 5 minutes to open her into love, you're probably talking too much and acting too little, or perhaps you have forgotten your true purpose. Your masculine gift is to know where you are, where you want to be, and what you need to do to get there. If you don't know one of these, then you need to discover it by any means necessary. This vision is, essentially, the basic gift you have to offer your woman, as well as the world. If you have no higher vision than the day-to-day grind of housework, job, childcare, TV, and vacations, you're failing your birthright. Your woman will feel cheated and ungifted by you, as will the world. And they will both give you less of their gifts in return. Your masculine gift, your edge, your vision, your purpose, the book is filled with calls to action to discover these. Listen to this call. It's loud and clear. When you do your tasks in the right way, they liberate your life energy so that you can attend to what really matters. The investigation, realization, and embodiment of true freedom. Do you even know what this means? Have you devoted yourself to finding out the deepest truth of your own existence? If, in this very moment, your tasks are not supporting your life in this way, you must drop them or change them so that they do. Otherwise, you are wasting your life. I can't recommend this book enough. When you have that deeper connection with yourself, you will then also be able to establish it with your partner, and you can better relate to the world around you. I want to end with this quote. The core of your life is your purpose. Everything in your life, from your diet to your career, must be aligned with your purpose if you are to act with coherence and integrity in the world. If you know your purpose, your deepest desire, then the secret of success is to discipline your life so that you support your deepest purpose and minimize distractions and detours. Much love, my friends.